and welcome to Empowered by My Design, a platform where we come together to discuss the beauty of understanding our unique human design and our unique differentiation, which helps us to recognize our beauty, divinity, power, vision, purpose, and all in all, it helps us achieve and reach more fulfillment in our lives. We're discussing subjects that are relevant to the journey of deconditioning, and we hope that you will enjoy this episode. We really want to talk today about shadow work, and specifically shadow work that's very personalized. In other words, any shadow work, this is my finding. I find it that the real shadow work is personalized shadow work. It's when you recognize your uniqueness and you're brave enough to look at your complexity and actually see every part of it and see the potential of the frequency from its lowest expression towards its highest expression. Because our the totality of our frequency is a blend of a few different, well, many different energies. And each one of them, it's like they have a radar from the low to the high. And there's so many nuances all the time in the day that we can meet those different energies, and we can assess with ourselves as we get familiar with them. We can literally get in the habit of paying attention to them in the moment. That's what I've been finding recently as a result of diving really deep into studying my shadows. And now I'm a 1-3. 1-3 is a very interesting profile because it's really here to learn from life. And sometimes when you experience something that can seem like a failure, it can get old if that happens a lot. It can get old because you're maybe possibly not really seeing why the things are happening. And what I'm finding with myself is that now, as I'm approaching 49, I'm at a time in my life where there is enough experiences to create the patterns and to create the, kind of like give myself this framework and a picture to look at, that I can step back and be like, okay, let's take a deeper look and let's try to lovingly understand what I'm looking at. And because I'm a projector, it's actually not for me, this work. This is the work that I'm ultimately designed to do so that I can support other people. So I'm going to take a pause right here. I'm going to let you take from here and continue later.
Wow. Thank you for opening the floor for that, because the shadows can be so painful that many, including my past self, was afraid to go there. I didn't know if there would be a benefit to going there. I didn't know if there was a point. I just kept the doors closed. And human design provided me with a exciting new perspective for looking through things that used to trigger me, or patterns or behaviors that were unhealthy for me. And it's made it more accessible and more interesting to watch from this kind of place of wonder instead of a place of criticism, which was a big deal for me. I was very critical. I sometimes still can be very critical of myself just with my past in art and in school. I just would blame myself very often for things, or, maybe it was the person or maybe it was me that was wrong. And the shadows in human design really help, like the themes really help you open up, well, what really was going on? Was there an energy that was missing, or was there a misunderstanding? And it's not so much about the person. It's not so much about myself, or usually it's in relationship with others, because being a projector, it's so much about this connection with the other. So there is a lot of misunderstanding of like, there's something wrong with them or there's something wrong with me. But really, like being able to look at it mechanically takes away the weight of the blame, and it takes away a lot of the shame I used to have around myself. Being guilt motivation, I was very guilty. I felt very guilty for a long time. And working through all of my shadows has been a process that I absolutely must go through as part of guilt motivation, so that I can actually like put my experiences together in a way that can be beneficial for others. Because ideally, I would like to talk to my past self with this information. I would like to tell, the me that back then what I needed to hear. So with this guidance. So there's a lot of layers to shadows in human design. And I'd love to just put out there that there's shadows with the undefined centers and the themes of the centers. There's also shadows with unconscious gates. There's shadows with undefined gates. There's so many levels and possibilities to what this can mean. Bridging gates for splits. There's a lot to go into of what is defined as a shadow, and then also what is defined as the lightness of the design. So I'd be interested to hear what your perspective is on that.
Yeah, beautiful. You said the word guilt, and you know what? I was just learning about my particular relationship with guilt. So I'm gonna dive straight into gate 27, which I have 3 times in my chart. And this is in my south node on the first line, and in the conscious and the unconscious. So the conscious is the first line, the unconscious is the third line. And I also have it in my moon in the second line. And because I'm a projector, this is an undefined center, right? So as you're saying, it's this journey of learning how to give without guilt, and do it in such a way that you're really doing from the full cup, right? So that's something that in spiritual communities we're taught, that giving is beautiful, and that this is really the teaching, like I remember my teacher, who was with Osho for many years, was talking to us, saying that, life is like a school of generosity. Learning how to give is really important. And it's interesting. I've had a very unconventional life in a way, because I found this environment at the age of 23 in a foreign country after coming to the US to pursue my cello performance career, or so I thought. And here I am finding this magical being, and I was very drawn to his teachings. I was very drawn to this concept of, understanding how energy works. So it's like, and this is true, by the way, every time when we put out, we get back. And I recognize that to be true, and I really loved it. And the thing is that the teaching for me, right, with my particular uniqueness, was that, and this is South Node, so this is very much the past, as far as like what I'm bringing from past life and what I'm dealing with in the very first, you could say 40 years. That's kind of like a major energy before you get to your North Node energy. So I was very much in the midst of learning about how to give. And this is where it gets interesting. I have a defined willpower. And the willpower, when it's healthy, you know, it can say what it wants and what it doesn't want, you know? But for me, at that time, at that particular experiment that there was some level of confusion in my way of feeling, thinking, being, and doing that involved a lot of guilt. And so I felt like I should give because that's what's expected of me, you know? And I was reading the other day all of the different, like patterns and what you can work with when it comes to this particular gate. And it's very much about checking in with yourself. Are you doing this because you feel guilty? Or are you doing this because you feel full, because you want to give, because it feels good? And of course, it wasn't just one or the other. It was both. But I was definitely, as a projector, I could tell you that after many years of being a bit too out of balance with feeling like I have to give, it burned me out. So that was a really big teaching from me. And the word guilt, that was what got me to share that. So thank you, because we have in common that.
What an interesting energy to have in thinking about, first of all, a shadow starting in the undefined sacral as a projector, like that. Also, the energy to give in a center that's inconsistent with its energy. So, like wanting to give all the time from a place of maybe not always having, not always having, because that gate, the gate 27, right? It's like this gate of nourishment and caring and the energy to give. And so it's just not on all the time if you're a projector. It's not the energy's not flowing there all the time. So I could see where giving when you might not have the energy to give and just continuing could be painful. Like I resonate with that a lot in my I'll just go ahead and talk about my sun activation in gate 29 because that's also in the sacral. And having that as my personality sun is teaching me a lot. But it also has this energy of wanting to say yes to everything, the gate of saying yes and the gate of directness, and wanting to make commitments and say yes to things when I don't know if I have the capacity to maintain it. It's like the same checking in with the self. And before human design, I didn't know how to check in with myself because I did not understand me and the other, like how we were separate, because whenever I was saying yes to something, it involved another person and we were together. And when we're
Mm.
together, it's like the energy is there for whatever it is that I'm saying yes to. And I would go away after saying yes and be on my own and realize, like, what have I done? I I can't commit to this. I said yes to it. And then I would be stuck and pulled through an experience that was extremely draining for me and detrimental to my health and my energy. So, um, that was something that I did not see until until I learned human design. And I just was tortured by it. Like I knew it was there and I thought something was wrong with me, really. Like, why don't I have the capacity to maintain, every day, to have the same energy every day and get through this without burning out? Like, I just kept thinking, I'll do better next time. I'll do better next time. And now with awareness, I can be more discerning and actually check in with myself because I can look at my design. And that's all I really have to see, like, myself is check in with my design and check in with, like, is this person wanting me to say yes just because they want to do the thing? Like, am I picking up that they have the energy for it? So I need to allow them to do the thing and not be involved, So that took a lot of exhaustion to
Mm.
learn and to see, to accept, like, the shadow for me is like, I can't say yes to everything
Mhm.
and I want to.
Mm.
But it's worse to say yes to something and not be able to follow through on it. It feels so much worse. So really facing the shadow of that helped me like protect my energy, but also protect other people. I don't want to let them down either. So it's this kind of similar energy because it's in the sacral center of like, how do we engage with others in a way that's really successful for everyone involved and is aligned with inconsistent energy? Like, what
Mhm.
does it really mean to be a projector and have inconsistent energy? You know, like that is something that needs to be educated. The world needs to be educated on like, this is a reality. There are people out there in the world that don't have consistent energy every day. And how do we function in the world and how do we find success? You know, I mean, those are big topics, but like starting with the shadow in this, like for all projectors, whatever it is in your sacral center, like that's the window for
Mhm.
for you. So
So true. And it's getting me to reflect on my Saturn return era, which I was actually imprinted as a manifesting generator. So here's another interesting thing is that I didn't even really realize my limitations back then. In a sense, I was designed to fit in with an environment of generators. So it's interesting because I do remember loving to generate, and I generated a lot. But there was an almost like a compound effect of like, okay, so what's after that? Like, what do I do with that time? Because it was very much about the moment. It was about be here now, do this right now, and be a part of this thing that you are, and just make it work. But in reflection, right now, when I'm studying and really, because my journey basically got me after years of being in that environment, and I intuited that I needed to start kind of step into my own space because I was in other people's spaces for a long time. And only when I started moving into my space, only then did I start realizing that I don't actually really know myself very well, you know? And interestingly enough, I moved to the West Coast. I got exposed to cannabis, which was a very interesting thing to get into at the age of 42 after years of meditation. And what it introduced me to was to the fact that I don't actually know myself. And it's really important for me to know myself. And that's how I ended up calling in the human design system. And as I tapped into the human design and I learned that I'm a projector, that blew my mind because I operated like a manifesting generator for years. And with that also came, there's a lot of like I mean, when we study ourselves and we look into all the different layers that are there for us to be aware of when it comes to like our unique journey and our kind of like our destiny, almost like the people we're meant to meet and how it's serving our purpose, and where is it going forward, it's really fascinating because there are no mistakes. That's the thing that 1-3 will tell you in a way, in a kind of funny way, will tell you that, but from a place of complete compassion. So I'm adding that to what you're saying from a place of like, ultimately the idea is for us to realize that this is about individual journeys. There's no general advice here. There's no general rules when it comes to these things because we're all in a unique journey, right? And we have different, like, on the path, we have different challenges for a reason, you know?
Mm.
And so I find it really beautiful in a way, even though like I realize what you were saying. It's really interesting for me at your age where I was imprinted as a manifesting generator, you know, I wasn't really operating like a projector. And this is what, 17 years ago? Um, and so I think it's really beautiful. Actually, I want to encourage more people in their 20s and 30s to get their hands on their human design chart. Help yourself to be aware of, these precious years and recognize the value of self-awareness in that regard. So yeah, I resonate with what you say.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I love hearing also a reminder of like how you got into human design, like just hearing you talk about no mistakes and about your process of finding human design. It's so along with your innocence motivation, like it just fits so well. Like to like when you're like laughing about it, it's like I know that it came with so much navigating and so much time and energy to like find that path. And I mean, I guess it finds you, it finds us, right? And so it's making me think a lot about my guilt motivation with this
Mm.
conversation because I, human design found me. I was invited to look it up when I was at a point of really intense guilt in my life. Like I was having an intervention with my best friend and I had made some big mistakes. And it's funny now, but I definitely like hurt some people and lost some friends. And I'm a 4/6, so losing friends was like cutting off my arm. Um, it was a very painful time of my life, and I found human design when I was desperate for any guidance because I was so confused about who I was and how I worked and was so lost because I knew my internal like reality, but the what I had been learning and trying to match up to and compare to wasn't fitting. Like the clothes, the spiritual clothes I was wearing just never fit. And
Mm.
I was at a point of desperation. And of course, human design found me, and it was like a shining light in the darkness. And so I think that goes along with because I'm guilt motivated, I really do want to do the self work. Like I remember I had just bought the book, How to Do the Work, because I was so like trying to go through it. Like I was always into like self help, trying to figure this stuff out. So it was finally something that made sense for me and also made it fun and also gave me a community to connect to. So I could take it with a bit of lightheartedness because before that, it was dark. Like self work, working on yourself was dark and scary, and people often do it alone. I did it alone for a long time. So having a whole community out there of human design nerds that just want to like talk about empowerment of like embodying your truth and like it's not all rainbows and butterflies, right? Like yeah, we both know it's like it's hard. There's a lot of days of like what am I doing? Like I think I lost my mind. Like I need to check in with someone, and that's part of the process because I can share that my internal state now feels so much more peaceful on a regular basis. Like even when I have those moments of like my shadows are coming up, I know what to do now. I have the awareness to know how to slow down and pause and like face those things instead of spin out on bad patterns and bad behaviors like before. I know who to call. I know how to ask for help. I know where to look. Like I have tools. So it's not scary. And it's like my days are so much more peaceful. And that's like, I also want so many people to get into this like as soon as you can. Like we just go through this life process of getting deeper into ourselves and like our life purpose through life, regardless. So why not have a little extra awareness and a little extra fun while
Mm.
you're on your journey?
Mm. And this connects to me to the concept of fulfillment. What is fulfillment? and how can you tap into your fulfillment? And I'm realizing myself, like this is probably the most important thing in life, is to be able to tap into the why of why were you born? Like why are you in a body? And and it comes to everything that we do. And like service. It's knowing, like I have gate 26 on my conscious sun. I'm really here to relate on a very deep heart level with people. And technically, it's sales, it's like heart marketing. But for me, the key there, it was about the truth of who I am. Until I didn't get deep, deep, deep into understanding myself, and and I needed to get lost. I literally needed to go through what I went through in order to understand why I'm actually here and what can I give other people. And so back to the study of our shadows, I looked at that gate 26. It's got this really beautiful potential for connecting really deeply with my tribe, with the people that resonate, with my journey and my shares. And it's all about the genuine expression of who I am, like who I am as a unique individual. Not trying to mimic something else that I've heard, not trying to, even like when it comes to transmitting, because that's considered the energy of the transmitter or the role of the transmitter. Sometimes I can tap into other people's energies, and that's actually not the point here. The point is really you're transmitting your own higher self, your own God self, your own, like the yummiest part of you, And that's back to also like this whole topic of understanding the magic and the value in us really knowing the potential of our frequency, because each one of us we are just divinely created. We're divinely manifested. We're, like we're creatures of the divine. And there are no mistakes in each and every one of us. There's a unique pattern, a unique configuration, a unique sacred geometry, however you want to call it, that's designed to be held in a way that helps it to see its own divinity, its own worth, to be expressed in its pure potential, in its pure nature. And I really feel that, my ability to study myself has helped me a lot to get to this point that I can share this. And all I really want for others is to tap into that themselves, and that was very much helped by the shadow work that I've done, because here's an interesting thing about an ego gate, right? So the 26 sits in the willpower that's considered both ego center and the heart center. So we also, back to like my past, with my spiritual community, there was big, how should I say, condemnation is a word I use often because it's true. There was a lot of like hammering of the ego, not realizing that ego is actually meant to be there. Is actually meant to be, they call it the creator and the destroyer. The ego has capacities when it's healthy, when it's really in its highest expression, and when it's really aware of its beauty. It moves things, it changes things, it does things, And so we have to, like, I realized that was a really big part of my shadow work with this energy, is to see it for what it is. Because I remember when I first found out that my conscious sun gate is in an ego center, I was like, it was just so kind of crazy to connect the dots, and put it together with my past. But eventually I just laughed, because it's funny. You have to see it for its potential, for like the human potential and what we can create with it, and you know, how we can actually enjoy being who we are.
God, that is so funny. And it really points out like the ironies in the chart because there's something to be really deeply learned with a gate in an undefined center to just really learn the truth of what that energy is there for. And also, like, oh, wait, you're talking about your gate in the ego. So that's your definition. And then I was thinking about the gate we talked about earlier in the sacral center and how different it is to have definition that you're watching come out of you, that you're responsible for this energy, and then having this undefined center where you're taking in and learning these deep lessons with these shadows. And like something that we forget to talk about because we're just looking at definition and we're looking at this image with things colored in is we forget how much the openness really matters to the entire design of our being because like you can't have light without darkness, right? So like you can't understand your definition, like you can't understand what it means to have a defined heart and a defined ego without understanding all the undefined centers, and how you like in particular move through your life with both. Like we're always balancing both. Like I really resonate with this of having definition. Like I almost didn't even recognize my definition, like some of it, because I resonated so much more with my open centers because like the balance, the scale was like outweighed on the shadow side. My shadows were really outweighing the light. And
Mm.
I had to take a look at my light again and really get to know, what do I have here? What's defined? What is the gift that I bring? And now I have to go back to like, okay, let me like make sure I'm balanced here because every day we're confronted with everything, every
Mhm.
part of our design. And like there's so much beauty in the just a singular moment of like, what is coming up for me in this moment? Is this from a shadow place or is this from a light place? Like, is this from the openness in my design or the definition in my design? What's about to come out of me right now? And in that moment, if you can recognize your shadow, I think immediately the light comes out. Like even just acknowledging that the shadow is there, it's like the light comes out and there's something like I'm imagining this like toy of like this engraved toy where you put a candle inside and it casts like a beautiful shadow image all over the wall.
Mhm.
And like how beautiful it can be to have both. Like you need to have the candle, which is you, but you also need to have all of the shadows because that paints the picture. So that's like the picture of our life. And I just think it's so beautiful, like how deeply, especially as projectors, like we have to go into this, like we have these ironies, like we have these moments of like questioning, like the light that we bring, like even questioning, like, is it really there? Is that really something like for you and your teachings with the ego, like you were constantly questioned for
Mhm.
the definition that you bring. And we're really going to school. Projectors go to school in life, and it's something that needs to be acknowledged and accounted for because I know just from like our interactions and also interactions with other people that have done the work to get to know their designs, you can feel a higher frequency that is very contagious in these people. Like you don't even have to say anything in particular. It's just there. And walking with that confidence and that higher frequency, it's just like oozing medicine out into the world.
Yeah, that's what's attractive.
Mhm.
This is a beautiful point to bring, because it comes back to something that I'm realizing so much about projectors right now, and I hope we have a lot of projectors watching this, because you know we realize, the projector strategy is very clear. We got to wait to be invited and recognized before we share our insights, right? We know that. But what does this actually mean and how does it actually work? Because I've wrestled with this as well, because, I've seen it from the beginning. I recognize the places where I spoke out of terms, plus I have an undefined throat. So I misspoke, you know, but ultimately, what is the gift in understanding my design as a projector? And what I'm realizing more and more is that it's about me coming back to myself after having all these years of being focused outwards, right? Because that's what our aura does. It focuses on the other. We absorb the other. We can get lost in the other, So that's the habit of the projector aura, whether they're conscious of or unconscious. But here's the invitation is to bring it back in and to start seeing ourselves. And that's hard for projectors, really hard to be able to recognize yourself as a projector and do all the inner work, all the shadow work of recognizing where the bitterness comes from and take full responsibility. That's hard, but it's not impossible. It just takes patience and love and dedication and enough recognition in the worth of who you are, to the world and to yourself, because that comes back to like divinity, realizing you're not here by accident. You are born into this realm to serve everybody and to evolve, because ultimately, this is part of the recognizing the value of evolution is that you ideally want to raise your frequency throughout your life. You want to achieve this quality of self-awareness throughout your life, self-realization. And so projectors, we definitely have it extra hard because we are so easily lost in the other. But it's through that getting lost that eventually we realize, oh, actually, it's by design. We need that in order to come back to ourselves. And to me, actually, when the more you look at it from far, it's such a beautiful thing for projectors to recognize and to tap into that and to realize their gifts and what they can do when they become self-aware, how many people they can help. That's just mind-blowing.
It's so key. Yeah, recognition is key. Before human design, I really wanted to help other people and I was really focused on other people. But when I was living from a place of making decisions based on my shadows, I was making decisions based off of relieving all of my vulnerabilities and my openness. And I ended up hurting people. Mm-hmm. And it is so important as a 4/6 with my life purpose is fulfilled through bonding in the quarter of duality. So I just was always trying to figure out how to really successfully connect with others, how to really give my best to others. And I was always searching for understanding that because I didn't want to cause harm, and my behaviors would end up doing that because I misunderstood myself. I didn't see myself. So eventually over time, through recognition, I could turn back in and start to look at myself because I was always looking out, trying to be like the other person, and that never really helped them. So having my own recognition for what I'm really here for. Mm-hmm. What do I bring to a connection? What is my purpose? How do I even achieve fulfillment for my own unique design? That just blew my mind wide open because I realized that I was so over there in them that I didn't realize how to sit back and actually offer guidance. And like learning how to sit back, I had to learn like, okay, this is what my aura is doing. This is what my design is doing. I have to recognize my value and realize like, and trust that someone is going to ask for my value. If I really, really do wait and I really do see like, I see my definition, I see what I bring, I'm focused on studying and learning and growing, other people will ask me, and they will come to me and it will feel so much more successful because when they do, it's like all of a sudden it opens up like I can have my gifts and I can sit in this seat over here and they can sit over there and I can offer more objective advice and not get so pulled all the way into them because there's moments when that's necessary. There's moments when it's invited and you can go into it, but there's also an important moment to get back out. It's consuming. It's literally like a drug. Getting sucked into the other person, it consumes everything. So you have to learn, like, I can actually step back and step out of this. And how to do that is it takes practice and it takes awareness and it takes seeing your truth, right? So like, yeah, recognition is the most essential thing for projectors to realize is like how to recognize yourself and what you're really here to give. And it's freeing, to finally have the relief of knowing what you're here for. I used to be such a rebel artist. I was like, don't put me in a box, and I want to try it all. I want to try on the costume of every type of person out there. But having my design was like, it put me back in timeout for a little while and was like, okay, go back to child Collyn and timeout and think about what you've done. Think about how it's affected you and other people around you. Does that feel good? No. So go sit with your design. And then I realized, like, oh, how beautiful it is to be yourself. Like, how beautiful it is to be given a role. Like, I have a role in this life to play out. And before, I was actually just spinning around, lost, like trying out everything. I was spinning around trying to find, because that's what we're taught in this culture. Like this westernized culture is like you can be anyone and anything. So go grab it. And I was so just all over the place. So actually having like my costume, this is what you're given in this lifetime, and like do your best that you can to be your best self is like it's actually a gift, you
Mm,
know?
totally. Yeah, and then back to the concept of self that we both love to talk about. It's like, what is the self? It's so, there's just so much magic in trusting our uniqueness and being able to show up as the crazy weirdos that we are, being a projector and a nerd and it's fun. It's really fun. I love getting old because of that. Because it feels like I'm more comfortable in my own skin. And that's what I want for others. I really want to support other people to be comfortable in their own skin and trust in their authority. Here's another thing that we're talking a lot about in the human design community. It's that understanding that with the chaos that we're seeing manifested out there, that is not going to get any, let's just say it's not going to get any better anytime soon, because everything astrologically is showing that the earth is moving into a major shift, major transformation, right? And, we're talking about the global cycle shifts and the cross of the sleeping phoenix. But with that, the only thing that you can rely on is your inner authority, is your nature, is your crazy nature, actually. Like if you were to laugh a bit about how how insane it is that there's so many arguments out there. People are constantly caught up in opinions and rights and wrongs, not even realizing that everyone's completely different. And not from a place like, oh, we're not connected different. We're entirely connected, but we're just different expressions, you know? So in that regards, like if we realize that we are the only ones who actually know what's right for us, we'll be okay. And that's sovereignty. That's sovereignty. And that's what we're moving towards.
Such a good reminder. Yeah, and like this, what's happening in the world is so much pressure on like how to be the perfect human. Like everyone's trying to find the perfect way to live. Like this is the best way, or this is the truth. This is how you should really live, and really being able to accept the differences between us all and your own unique best way to live, your own unique truth. There's nothing more empowering than that. And yeah, sovereignty, like, oh, we're coming into a time of individualism. And this is the time for everyone to get to know themselves. And it doesn't mean like you have to get a book or sign up for classes or dive super deep into human design. Even just looking at your design and just take a look and then see what happens in your daily life. See what comes up, watch yourself make decisions. It's so important, especially for people with inner authority processes that are unique compared to the majority. And what I mean by this is the majority of the world either has emotional definition or sacral definition. So they have a very certain way of making decisions. So having you and I who have splenic authority, it was interesting for me to really, really dive into this and really take the time to watch and observe and get to know what that really looks like, because I didn't know. I definitely did not know before. I might have experienced it, but I didn't know what was happening. And it's so important to finding your sovereignty. If you have an inner authority that's splenic, it's so mystical. Like that's a whole topic.
All right. Yeah, it's like there are many exercises actually to work with a spleen. It's almost like you have to sit. Yeah, for us, meditation is a must, first of all, because when you sit in the silence and you contemplate and you really take contemplation seriously, which is another reason why it's so helpful to study yourself, because it kind of forces you to contemplate, which I don't really like that word, but it's an invitation. Okay, it's an invitation for contemplation. And so when you sit as a splenic being, there is this spaciousness for your spleen to actually talk to you. And realizing that it's really here for you. It's not trying to mess with you by not giving you answers. It gives you answers, but you just have to learn to listen, And when you leave in, like if as a projector, I can say, I've been easily distracted with online stuff, social media, for example. And when you're leaving and you're caught up in social media, or your mind is still playing what's been played on social media, your mind is going to be loud. And with a very quiet spleen, the loud mind is a winner sometimes, and we all know that, it's definitely not an easy journey for us spleeners. I don't know, never said that before. I don't know why it came out now, but
It's great.
it's just also laughter helps. It really helps, because honestly, the body knows everything. The body knows everything. Another thing I was going to mention is this concept of homogenized advice. I think we brought it in another video before. where we're really in a time, like you said, everybody's trying to argue on the right way and teach the right way and be kind of like it's like almost like a competition, right? There's a lot of, we're still operating in the old energies of trying to fit in or trying to continue with the old parameters of success, where you're like following some experts' ideas and whatever. The journey right now, what that I find that is the most healthy when it comes to like taking care and loving yourself and doing the kind of work that really helps you to be healthy and thrive and all that, is to recognize that those who are not really in tune with differentiated wisdom, like human design, are always going to get caught in homogenized advice, which is dangerous. It's actually dangerous because we take words for face value as if they, supposed to apply across the board, but they actually, they're very specific, coming from a particular person, from their truth, which is to be respected, but it's still their truth, And so to be able to differentiate that and be like, okay, thank you for sharing, but I know my truth. So that's really important, I think, as well, with all this work that we're doing.
Always necessary for a reminder about what advice is taken in. And also like on the note of projectors and recognition, like if projectors are not recognized, they're just lost in whatever community, whatever group, whatever workspace they're in, just lost. Like you're not seen, like a projector's success is completely based in recognition. 100%. Like I used to live in the homogenized way thinking like if I do it that way, eventually someone will see how great I am or see how special I am. And that's a lie. It's the biggest lie ever. And it's told by people who profit off of that. So the most freeing and radical thing you can do is step out of those spaces and like you don't have to like dramatically step out, just take some time alone, meditate, take a vacation, go be completely alone with yourself and see like what does come up. If you actually close your eyes and sit with yourself, what is being denied? That's your insides, whatever your inner authority, whatever is trying to tell you, like what are you not listening to?
Mm-hmm.
Because I had a lot of that before. And I just thought, whatever excuses.
Mm-hmm.
But it was keeping me bitter,
Mm-hmm.
super bitter. And the only way to success for a projector is through their own truth, understanding what success really means and feels like for them. And it's not what we think success is in the homogenized world. Like I used to get like a little bit triggered, like and a little bit like, oh, like when I heard the word success, it would bother me because I was adverse to it because of what the world has twisted it into. So finding that for oneself is so deeply tied in with purpose and with your design and your truth. And just look at it, just get a foundation reading and hear from someone just what they see in you because it's surprising.
Mm-hmm.
It's refreshing. And it's like, wow, like, okay, like, so when you sit with yourself, you can remember all those things that someone sees. It's like, it's so easy to forget, like, how great we all are.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, just taking a moment to be with that.
Yeah, that's a big part of the deconditioning, is to remember your value. You are invaluable by existing. But the general conversations out there, don't touch on this much.
Hmm.
The fact that we are so invaluable. I mean, people are still unpacking history and the atrocious, the horrible things that have been done, to humans, and like how human life up until, I mean, it's still actually, what am I saying? In many places, human life is still not quite recognized as invaluable. And that's a problem that, we're facing right now, because in order to shift the reality and to move past the noise of what we're being sold out there and trying to be forced into, there's so many agendas in play. I don't even have to name them because we're not going to focus on that here, but there are plenty, right? But to face that, how to actually face that is by tapping really deeply into the value of your life. Mm-hmm. Because you only have responsibility for yourself. I mean, sure, we're here to like learn to work together, but how can I just find it so important right now for us to come back to self in order to recognize human life at all in general. It starts from us recognizing our human life, and yeah, that's a big one. I realize that we are at this time of major shift. It's not like it's not gonna happen overnight. But that's what we sign up for. That's why we're here.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. I think it is essential to like talking about shadow work, to talk about things happening in the world, also things happening within each individual person, right? Like there's also, I know a handful of people that have caved under the pressure and the depression in their lives and have decided to take their own lives because they did not see their value. And, without diving into that spectrum of things, I just see how important it is for every single person. Like starting with that, if people can learn how to see their own value, they can learn how to value others and communities of people, and it can get bigger and it can get global because it all starts from, within, with your own love for yourself. And if you can love yourself, you can, emanate that love. And it sounds easy, but of course it's not. And there's a lot of talk the past few years. There's been a lot of all these things floating around on how to do self-work, how to do trauma healing work, shadow healing work, dark night of the soul, all these things out there in the internet, how to do shadow work. And then also, going to certain therapists. Like if someone finds a good relationship with a therapist, amazing. Like that's extremely valuable. But I think there can be a danger in both like the wrong therapist that doesn't fit you and just taking things from the internet and trying to heal yourself, because this can be a huge danger to, if you don't know your design, to your design. If you're actually told to dig into things that are really not healing for you, or told to overcompensate in ways that are maybe like open areas in your design, this can be a problem because it's so necessary to understand the complexity of your design before doing the healing work. And I had tried some other things before, but this is the only thing that really gave me results without having to regularly see someone. I did a lot of self-study. I did a lot of study with friends. I did take some online classes, but the prices compared to everything else that's out there was manageable for me. To take an educational course compared to like college or institutional prices, it's so small. So like investing in yourself and your healing for yourself is so important, and doing it in a way that fits you and like fits like you feel like it's correct for you. You feel it in your inner authority and it feels aligned. Like that's essential, because before that I had been trying to do healing work where it was actually just poking and opening all the shadow parts and telling me to work harder and be better and prove more. And that was actually a detriment to me. That kept me down. And I see a lot of, like, I interact with people and I watch and I just observe, and it seems like it's making things more challenging. And there doesn't have to be that much suffering in learning how to love yourself. It's
Mm,
just peeling away. It's just letting go. It's just forgiving and making space for new things. That's the hardest part, is letting go, and having the right support system, like having the right guides and the right community to support you and the right systems is essential.
absolutely. And I want to touch on something that both of us have in common. That's the being single definition and how important it is for people that have this in their chart. And what this actually means is that we are basically designed to be our own guides. If we really look at the energy mechanics in the chart and we see it as a divine, a divine sacred geometry, it basically shows us that we have what it takes to connect the dots within ourselves. And so when you look at someone that has let's just say maybe the person's going to therapy and they don't even know that they have a single definition, and then they take someone else's advice over their own, which is very similar to my experience. I had a guru for years and I took his advice over mine. It's very similar. That's quite harmful if you can't weigh it, if you can't put it to some degree in the equation. And I recognize, like it's quite important to know this part, you see, like, so I'm bringing this up because I think that, to me, beyond, like, what's above therapy is self-study, to me. But I can see
Add
that,
single definition projectors.
right. Well,
Yeah.
that can also apply to a lot of people who are single definition, and yes, projector especially. But the thing is that, when you're not conscious of your uniqueness and then you go to for another person for advice, you know, it may or may not work. And I think many people, for example, me in my chart, there's a lot of things that indicate that sometimes I don't really trust myself. And it's been very clear in my life in the past. I've stayed in codependent relationships. For example, that the 27 that I was talking about before, the gate 27, that's one of the shadows of this gate, is that you end up in codependency in situations that are not serving you for too long. And even though it was, overall, like, it seemed like a really beautiful thing, but there was also some harm there. So I think the bottom line of what I'm trying to say now is I'm encouraging everybody to love themselves enough to investigate just enough to know your nature, your uniqueness, like, know the even just the skeleton of it, like the introductory way into human design basically tells you, the gist, the kind of like the how should I say, like, the general things, even if you just know the general things, it'll help you to realize who is really a good guide for you. Because I do believe that it's important to have a guide, but you need a guide who can really support your nature versus, again, back to like this homogenized advice, or like, fit into what they believe is right instead of really seeing your nature in the equation. And that I think a lot of people are caught up in that without even realizing.
Mm, absolutely. Yeah, it's like so important to like allow yourself to be discerning, like allow yourself to like trust what's coming from within instead of just what others tell you. And for some, this is easier than others, but like really taking the time to have that discernment of like who you're going to, because there are folks where like talking to a therapist really helps them because, you know, maybe they're sacral and they get asked questions that they need to be asked those questions, or maybe they're split and they need, you know, some flow in their design. And there's reasons to connect with certain people, even for single definition, but like there's a really big, I mean, I trusted myself when I did go to therapy a couple times, and every time it was not it. And I trusted my inner authority that said, get the hell out, you know,
Mm.
and don't listen to that. So I had some experiences. Some were not great and some were okay, but I have learned more through this and through discovery, self-discovery than anything else, of course. So it's like this human design is amazing because it's like, here you go. You can do it on your own. Like nothing else in the world is like that.
I think your define ajna was probably helpful there, you know?
I did have like a absolutely not right away in those rooms, but I think that's because, yeah, I have a very fixed way of understanding, and the way that I was asked questions, the way that therapy was structured, asking me questions about myself,
Hmm.
didn't work because I was asked a lot of things that I don't know. I didn't know. I didn't have an answer for it because that's the 2343. Like I just kept saying, like, I remember as a child, I used to always say, I don't know, because I was asked a lot of dumb questions about things I wouldn't know about, like all the time. It's like, ask me something I would know. Okay. You know, so that I definitely had this, like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, oh, it's a yes or no question. I don't know. And it really pissed people off. And it did help me though realize like, well, this isn't for me. Like this person's
Hmm.
not for me then, because like nothing's coming out. Um, and I think there's something really valuable to like, I can see it in my design now. And before I was like, maybe I'm just a freak. And now I'm like, aha, like I can love that about myself and be excited about it. So, um, yeah, like just learning to shift your perception from like critique to like curiosity and excitement, right? Like about all the aspects of the design.
Yeah, and I think also your defined throat is I mean, I see it as a helper there too, because there's power to the defined throat, you know, when you can just say no, you know, versus someone who is not defined there. And many other places, like in my case, I think I've been in a kind of like a, you could say a flux or some like a situation of, I don't know if I could trust myself, or yeah, somebody else knows better than me, right? That's like the very typical to undefined ajna. And yeah, it's certainly it's really helpful to know it now, though. That's the thing. You know, we all make mistakes throughout life, and actually many of them are beautiful. They're just part of our learning. It's a step into the next thing, into the next thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's mostly just the ability to see it, to have like a step back and observe it and be able to see it for what it is, you know? I think that's where human design is huge, because for me, that's what it was.
And also like laugh about when it happens and like be okay. You know, like we talk a lot about like removing the shadows. You can't, you know? I think there's also an element of like, and you share this too so much in like in what you speak about, because it's like having humility and having this like laughter and being able to see like, well, that's how that happened. Cool. Like had to happen that way. You know, like the people that really see you will laugh through it with you, you
Mhm.
know, and like,
Right.
you know, it's not such a like, things are not a big deal. When we're in our shadow state and we make a mistake, it's not a big deal.
This
Like,
is a gift of innocence motivation that I feel can help a lot of people. I mean, life is a mystery, you know, it really is. It's the ability to see the mystery, like to be able to like contain it. I think that's a beautiful thing, to be able to get to a point where you feel like you can contain the mystery of life. And of course, be open for more surprises. It's not like you know everything, but it's just this essence of, like, let's not get so rigid and so stuck and so, because that's part of the disease of the mind, the seriousness. And I think
Getting
that's,
stuck too. Like there's something really like important there about just don't get stuck in it because you're like, oh, this is how it's happening. It's going to keep happening that way.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, ideally, we want to be present, right? I feel like life is a teacher of like learning how to be present so that we can be with life no matter what's going on, but be present. In the quality of present, I think that's where comes the magic. Like slowly, as you get more and more present and you appreciate presence and you're like affirming more and more presence in your life, it's almost like you start having like this what do you call it, like it's you start noticing things more. You're more feeling like you're really here and you're really enjoying the journey. I think
Oh
that
yeah.
ultimately that's what we all want, whether we can express it this way or not.
Mm.
But the shadow work has helped a lot. I mean, that's also bringing it back to the where we started. I'm inviting everyone also to try to move away from focusing on the problems with the world that we know there's tons going on now with social media. There's everyone's talking about everything and focused on a million and one things. But try just to, as an exercise with yourself, if you can take the focus from all the problems externally and focus on how can you work with your energy? How can you work with your uniqueness? How can you master, if you dare, how can you master your energy so that your life shifts, so that your life becomes the kind of like the core of your reality. I mean, that's what it is. We're creating from within us. But again, it starts with little baby steps of getting more and more, simplified, finding the grace in, just living your own life and focus on your energy first. And when you do the shadow work and you can see the complexity and the fullness that exists within your life, and you can really just focus on mastering that, that will ripple everywhere. That will affect everything around you. That's kind of like the key, the key to unlocking this mystery on some level, and I know it's easier said than done, but the concept is quite simple. So I'm encouraging everyone to do shadow work, and both Collyn and I offer beautiful support. We offer our unique lens to help you really look at yourself from compassion in a way that helps you get a simple, practical way to work with your energy on the day-to-day basis, And, you're invited to, we're going to leave our links below the video, and you're invited just to check it out. Check out our websites, our offerings, because we, as you can see, we speak from experience. We love what we do. We love supporting others. And as projectors, your success is our success. We want to help you. We want to support you. We want you to feel good about your life. So we're really here, very transparently, I'll say, we're here to promote ourselves. Why? Because we know that human life is invaluable. And we want everyone in our sphere, everyone in our, in our life to benefit from this frequency. So we're inviting you all to check out our websites and to contact us, to leave your comments, share with us how you're feeling right now after watching this. And, don't hesitate to contact us. We're here for you. We really are. And we're very grateful that you watched and you stayed with us. And we're excited for more content to come. And it's always about this. It's about the real shit. It's about, really loving this life, making this a beautiful journey of joy and excitement, and how to make it practical. It's not about the ideas and the dreams. It's about bringing it to the body. It's about making it real, practical, grounded, and it's exciting. It's just purely exciting. So thank you for being here with us.